Hello there! Welcome back to our podcast with Joe
and John. And what is the name of the podcast? You forgot to tell us.
Thinking is Infinite.
Yes, Thinking is Infinite podcast with
Joe
and John.
Yes.
All right, so part 2 of the opening.
Yes.
So, Joe, oh my goodness, since we last recorded, so much has happened in the remember we were talking, I think if anyone had listened to the last podcast, if you didn't, go back to it because you'll get some context to what we're talking about right now.
Mm-hmm.
We were talking about maybe Biden leaving office, maybe not. Why was he staying in? Was he staying in for his own reasons? So we started to talk about that. And I think I might have made a prediction that came true.
Partially, yes.
Partially,
yes.
In between, now we recorded, a little inside baseball. We recorded on July 11th, and
the 11th of July,
and since the 11th of July, 2 major things have happened.
Mm-hmm.
We had Donald Trump getting shot in the ear in an assassination attempt.
That was kind of crazy.
I kind of anticipated it happening, but I was like, oh, that happened.
It absolutely insane. And I think the last time a president was, or former president was shot was back in the early 80s. So it's more than 40 years since the last time something like this has happened, which is amazing. And then something else happened in between. I mean, after that has never happened. I don't think a president in his first term not running for re-election.
Yeah?
Has that ever happened? I don't think so.
I don't think so. I think that's the only time it's specifically happened. I know that sometimes there have been cases where a former president doesn't seek re-election. That happens a lot. But I don't think usually. I think the last time that they dropped out midway through was in the 1960s with Lyndon
Johnson, because Lyndon Johnson took over for Kennedy in the last year, did 4 years, and then didn't run for re-election, which he had the opportunity to run for re-election.
Yeah, and I think he did drop midway through.
He did,
but I think so.
And then died soon after, so maybe it could have been his health as well. But, just crazy stuff. And the thing I was thinking about, Joe, over the last few days is, you're 18, right? Mm-hmm. So ever since you were 14, okay, you've had some really crazy things happen around you in the world. We had a global pandemic. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's a once in 100-year thing. I mean, at least 100 years.
Yeah.
You have a former president gets shot in an election year where the president of the United States drops out. I mean, I feel like this world has gone so bizarre that crazy things are happening right now, and America's just it's normal, right? Because even you were he got shot. I was expecting that. I mean, it's crazy that it even comes up.
Yeah, oddly enough, he was so disliked that I was he's going to actually face some sort of plot. I just didn't I thought it would actually happen earlier. Either a Democrat or someone else would try to off him, know.
What a sad state of affairs in the world that it has to come to that. It can't just be people. You having an idea, I having an idea. It's okay if you have one different opinion than I do. But you don't have to off someone in order to get your way in the world. And I really pray for this country now that we do not.
I don't know. There is something that they did say it might have been a foreign plot, but that's
right now we're not getting enough information.
We don't know.
There's a lot of wacky things that happened during that. I mean, I've been watching the coverage on the assassination attempt, and there are some really bizarre failures of the Secret Service.
The Secret Service
which makes you wonder, are they doing it did they purposefully close their eyes to the whole day? Because so many basic things. I mean, Joe, listen, Joe. I don't know if you saw the field. Did you see the field where he was during that time?
I mean...
Did you see any video of photographs or anything?
I only saw a close-up of, a bloody face. That's it. I haven't really seen, any sort of, open area. Like
Okay, so what it was an open field, like almost like a farm.
Yeah.
Okay, and it had a stage on the left and right hand side that were kind of at an angle, and then a stands, I should say, and then one behind, and then the podium in the middle.
Yeah.
Now, there was a water tower far away. There was a building about 150 yards. Now, 150 yards is less than 2 football fields.
Yeah,
so it's really not that far away,
no.
especially in an area like Pennsylvania where there was a clear path. Anyone who was standing at that podium, now you would think Secret Service has to stand at the podium and look for threats, right? Mm-hmm. Look for where bad guys can be.
Yeah.
In the sight line was a building. Right? You don't think they put someone on that building to just at least make sure no one's going to go after the president from that point, or the former president at that point? I don't understand the failures. There was also a humongous failure that I've been hearing, and I don't know if you've heard it. This guy, did you know the guy was walking around that area, outside the area where they would screen everyone, but close enough that they can hit him with a shot? Did you know that? In any of the news stories that you looked
enough, at? I sort of looked at the news stories, but I kind of lost keeping up with it. So I was kind of I don't know, and then my mind just kind of jumped elsewhere. But
that's fine. That's fine. But you know what? I'm glad you're saying that, because a lot of people in the country don't know some of these stories. Now, apparently the shooter was flying a drone hours before.
Yeah.
Okay, that should have been a red flag for anyone who's standing there going, why is this guy flying a drone? Now, it could have been for very innocent reasons. Maybe he wanted to upload it, but it's still weird. And then he's acting suspicious. He has what they call a rangefinder. A rangefinder is to show the distance. Like, you look through these kind of... correct me if I'm wrong, if anyone realizes it's not, but from what I understand, you look through like binoculars, and it shows you the distance between things.
Yeah.
Now, hunters use it, golfers use it, but it's kind of bizarre to do that, to bring one to a Trump rally, right? So that's weird. That's weird number 2. Then, around 10 minutes at least, now, my timeline may not be correct, but within enough time to get Trump off the stage, they knew there was a suspicious guy on the roof. Mm-hmm. Why didn't they contact the Secret Service to grab him and take him off the stage?
Who was they? Who knew?
The Secret Service and the police department.
I guess the police department knew.
The police department knew, but why didn't they just get on a walkie-talkie or something and say, "Hey, look, get the president off the stage right now. We have a weird guy standing at the sitting on top of the roof." Doesn't that give you a little suspicion that there might be something wrong?
I don't know. I think maybe I know the service is supposed to protect everything around it. But I don't know. Was the building abandoned? Did it have an owner?
It was. It was a regular building. From what I understand, it was some type of glass company that was there. So, and from what I understand, there was even police officers inside the building. It was only a 1-story building. It was so bizarre. The point I'm trying to make is there was opportunity for it not to happen. Now, the former president got shot in the ear, but another man died. There was some really bad failures. Now you start to think, okay, is it incompetence, right? Just really poor at your job, okay? Yeah. But your job is one job, to keep the president or the Secret Service, the person they're watching alive. That's their only job.
Yeah.
They failed so badly. Or is it nefarious?
I don't know. I think
What do you think?
I think oddly enough, the whole thing, maybe they also didn't bring enough attention to the building, or maybe they just relied way too much on the local enforcement instead of their own.
Yeah.
Because it seemed like the regular police were there, but the Secret Service had no clue or anything like that.
Exactly.
Maybe they relied way too much on the local stuff and not just doing it themselves instead of if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Maybe they just relied way too much on because maybe the local police didn't want to say anything, or maybe they didn't think it was that big of a deal or something.
I don't know. Now, the thing that gets me is if I try to stay where the evidence takes me. Now, Joe has mentioned something, and it was very funny. Joe said, we were talking, I don't know, maybe like 6 months ago about, the world and things, and you said, where's the evidence? When I watch the news, I always go, where's the evidence? Right? I remember you said that because I never forgot it. Where's the evidence? So I always look for evidence before trying to make an opinion. Even though in my gut, I sometimes feel something, I try to go, okay, stop thinking what you're thinking and look at the evidence involved. Mm-hmm. To me, it's either gross incompetence or they did it on purpose. Now, it can't be anything else. It was just stupidity, bad protection, or they turned a blind eye to it. I would hate to think they turned a blind eye to it on purpose. But you can't help think it because you sometimes think, can they be that stupid?
Maybe the police didn't care. Instead of maybe it wasn't even the service.
Laziness? Maybe laziness?
No, but maybe it was even because it does seem like the police weren't really thinking a lot. They had officers in that building. If they were in there,
from what I understand, they did.
Then why didn't I think the officers maybe just thought that someone was in there to film or something? I don't really know what
how did a guy with a gun get that close with all the, because you got to remember, this is someone that is supposed to be protected by Secret Service.
Was the service in the building? Were they there?
From what I understand, the Secret Service was inside the perimeter where all the people were, but it's also their job to look around and see at every threat when they do a week's worth of prep at minimum at any place that they have to protect.
But why
someone.
weren't there federal troops in the building? If the building was listed as a threat, why did they leave it to the local? Why didn't they just do it themselves?
My point exactly. They should have had someone. Think about it. If you have a field and you say 150 yards out is a building that someone could pose a threat to the president or the former president. I keep saying former president, but the protectee, I should say. Why don't you make the perimeter wider? And say Secret Service is going to have to be there as well and keep a guy on that roof. It just doesn't make sense to me. And it doesn't make sense to a lot of Americans who've been following this. Now, if you haven't really been following it, you haven't been following it. You realize that Donald Trump got shot in the ear. He survived. Sadly, someone died, and you kind of moved on with life. But to me, when something doesn't make sense, Joe, I keep looking. I keep digging. You do. I know you do. You research the heck out of things. It's just what you're interested in, right?
Yeah, that's
now,
true.
When you're confused or want to find out more, what do? You
can't really trust the main news. I guess, you really want to, try to, look at a lot of different sources. Also, the big thing is, you want to almost be not only skeptical of everything, but you want to almost consider how much evidence each person has to something.
Yeah, I watched a video where this guy was insistent that there was a man shooting from the water tower, right? Mm-hmm. Now, a lot of people jump on and go, oh, there's a man in a water tower, conspiracy, more than one shooter. And I went, okay, let me look at the evidence of that. So I did some research on my own, and I said, I don't think there was another shooter in the water tower based on where the people were hit.
Yeah.
I may be wrong. I'm not a ballistics expert, but I just looked at where the people were hit, and I said, okay, probably not
from there because it would be in a weird angle.
Probably not, because the angle would have been differently. Now, but I also look at what happened and how did a 20-year-old outsmart the Secret Service?
I don't know.
Did he have help? Did he have...
I don't know. I honestly think that maybe it was just they were oh, well, there's nothing they have maybe they had a Secret Service perimeter and the rest of the stuff in the area would be surveyed by the local police.
Possibly. So,
maybe it was okay, well, Secret Service is going to protect this area, the core area, and then the police will protect, the outer rim. So, if, the local police just let this... Also, why would you let someone in an abandoned building anyway? Like, isn't that trespassing normally? Like,
I
if they have police
from what
there,
I understand, it wasn't
he
an
should have
abandoned
been.
building. It was actually a building that was used during the week.
Oh.
But it was a one-story building with a very not a steep slope, but a small slope.
So
in
was
it.
this on a weekend?
Yeah, it was a Saturday. Yeah, it was.
Oh.
It happened on
So
a
I guess
Saturday.
maybe they thought like the guy was like a worker there or something.
I
Like
don't-
maybe they thought the guy like worked there.
I don't
so,
know.
and that he was just like maybe filming this for like
Interesting
YouTube
you say
or
that.
something.
Interesting you say that, but he wasn't dressed like a worker. He was dressed like a 20-year-old kid would dress. I mean, he was, and that's the bizarre thing. And you know, it makes my mind wonder. It really, really does. And then you have the president of the United States. There was rumors that he got very ill and may have even suffered a stroke on the plane a week and a half ago. When they said he had COVID, and then he drops out a few days later. Now, obviously, he didn't die on the plane. We saw him last night on the TV, and he was, saying that he wasn't going to run, and he endorsed his vice president to run. But just very bizarre circumstances. First of all, and we talked about this in the last podcast, how did no one know he was suffering so bad? They knew.
Well, yeah. I think that if there were people, like you said this on the last show, where you were like, oh, well, maybe people were like kind of going against him from the start. If there were people that were going against him, and I did kind of mention this, it would have been someone on Kamala's crew. Remember, I kind of like mentioned that.
And look who wins.
I think
she wins
honestly,
now.
I think honestly, it
What do you
was
think
someone
now?
on her. I actually think that, because here's the thing, there was a live stream from one of the Democrat Party candidates, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
Okay.
One of her live streams, and she mysteriously deleted this the day before he dropped.
No.
So the day before
I
he
don't know
drops
this.
from the race, she just deletes the live stream. And she ultimately backs Kamala, but in the live stream, she said that there were Democrats within the party that had almost 3 factions. Ones that backed Biden, ones that didn't want him in office. And of those that didn't want him in office, a lot of them didn't want either of them. They wanted to remove them both.
Okay.
But presumably there were people who wanted Kamala in charge and not Biden. So, and again, she just deleted this the day before he drops out. So
Now, if you delete something you formerly recorded, there's a reason, right?
Yeah.
You don't just delete something that you recorded and put out there.
Yeah.
You put it out there for a reason. Now, someone told her to take that down, or she decided to take it down.
Yeah.
So she gave away something in that live stream.
Yes. So she did say that a large portion of the party didn't want either of them. They wanted to remove the entire ticket.
And bring someone else
in. But it does seem like there was a circle who did want Kamala in, because she said a lot of them. So it does seem like some of the people who wanted Biden gone also wanted Kamala in. So what I think might have happened is, since these are three factions, right, that formed.
Vying for power.
Yes. I think that the Kamala faction realized that they had to kind of eliminate both factions, because otherwise both factions might even ally against the Kamala if Biden were to drop out earlier.
Crazy
So what
drama.
I think maybe is that Biden, right, he runs, and at first, right, he runs with Kamala. And I did hear in another video where, like, people like RFK Jr., who are also other Democrats, and other Democrats who might have run, were kind of pushed aside.
They were pushed aside. That's totally true.
So I think these Kamala people and the Biden people kind of maybe allied to put the Biden-Kamala ticket on, but then the Kamala faction kind of because their second goal would be to wait. Once they kind of pushed aside the other candidates, they would only have to wait until a few months before the election. So that this way, if Biden drops out a few months before, then they wouldn't be able to run another candidate. So that faction of people who didn't want either of them
had to fall.
They would have to fall in line.
Right.
So if that's the case, then they would just need him to drop out in June or July.
And that
now
doesn't it make sense
with Trump's debate?
Yes, that's what I was saying. I'm glad you put the two pieces together.
They lured him into that trap, and the trap wasn't for Trump at all. It was for Biden.
For Biden, isn't that amazing?
I think that's what might have happened. Obviously, we aren't like
we're not behind the scenes, but you know what? We're making an assumption based on a lot of facts.
Yeah.
An interview, AOC talking, right?
Yeah,
and then the inexplicable debate in June. 4.5 months before an election, which never
actually
happens.
coincidentally is just enough time for a candidate to drop out, but not enough to actually pick anyone that isn't Kamala.
Anyone exactly. Joe figured it out. I knew. I had a feeling, Joe, that you were going to come to that conclusion, but that was something I was thinking of. But here's what I did not think before that first debate. I didn't know it was a trap for Biden. I thought it was a trap for Trump.
It was. I don't think it was, because honestly,
I was wrong at that time.
And also, here's the thing: he never told any of the campaign staff. None of the campaign staff knew he dropped out.
Yes,
so
I heard. That's
none
right.
of them
he only
knew.
Put it like a letter.
He only just
on
put
Twitter.
out a letter. So like, and apparently he only discussed this with like a couple of his top aides. I mean, they could have easily been manipulated by the Kamala faction if he was only talking to like two people. I mean, it's possible to manipulate like two of his top aides. Just say like,
well,
hey,
you know what?
It's really disastrous. Go and get him to drop out.
What Kamala might have done is gotten Biden's aides and said, "Listen, you'll still have a job if I win."
Yeah,
because it's all about. Because you got to remember, all these people in Washington. Let's face it,
they
they care about themselves and they want a job. And if Trump wins, they're all out of a job, right?
Yeah.
If
Kamala wins,
maybe they still have an opportunity.
But it's also like that makes a lot of sense because the Democrats, like a lot of the both parties kind of vie for their own aides. So if you think about it, right, the Biden camp. And those two aides really are more aligned with Kamala, and especially after the debate performance, they kind of would start to maybe see that Biden wouldn't stand as much of a chance as Kamala.
Now let's think of one of Biden's people, right? Mm-hmm. You're working in the White House, probably the coolest job on the planet, right? You're working in the White House of the biggest country in the world, right? Or one of the most powerful companies, or the most powerful country in the world.
Depending on how you say it.
Right. Now, if Biden loses, you don't have that job anymore.
No, Trump gets his own aides in.
Exactly. So how do you survive? Now, do you go back to working where you worked prior? But it's still uncertainty. This is your opportunity to stay in the White House. All his people can stay in the White House if they align with Kamala. So maybe you're right. And I think we're piecing it together pretty well. I hope the audience is listening and hearing it the right way. The way we're communicating. I think
also a big thing was that Joe Biden's signature wasn't the same. Did you hear
heard
about
that?
His signature wasn't the same. So if that is the case, and like a lot of these people were trying to like get him out, then it would make sense that he would probably rush through. They would want that as quickly as possible to like really get him out.
It's like when you sign for something at the store on that little pad.
Yeah,
it never looks like your real signature, right?
Yeah, and it's also was different than the last 5 executive orders, which was also weird. So like maybe he didn't even sign the order. Maybe it was literally someone else that signed everything, and Biden just kind of reluctantly agreed because he posted it.
Right.
So we can't really go back on it.
You never know.
You know? Like, maybe he didn't even do that. It was just like, they did it, the aides did it for him.
So what do you...
And they just got him to be like, yeah, I agree to that,
So we're mid-July, right? We're end of July. So August, September, October, November. We're less than 4 months till the election. What the heck do you think is going to happen next?
I don't know. I honestly think Kamala stands a better chance than Biden.
I think so,
oddly enough, because she does have young voters. A lot of young voters who
Which is
do
weird
support
because she's
her.
60.
but here's the thing though. She has really succeeded on really making TikTok her like core platform in a way that like a lot of young voters resonate more with. And as well as that, she does have the advantage of kind of coming from like, you know, being you know, someone who's like from a minority background, which again, woman, yes. Which actually a lot of minorities more sympathize with because they kind of want one of their own, and you know, and charge.
Which
you know?
there is factual. There's fact to that. Yes, people will vote for someone they
think is like them. You know,
exactly.
Anyone who they think is like them. You know, if there
is a faction of people, there's a lot of people that will vote for someone like them. Like,
and considering the fact that, like, you know, a lot of this country is minorities, and a lot of different minorities.
So you think
they're more sympathizing with her.
So in a sense, advantage Kamala over Biden. So I do agree, and you know what? Not only what you're saying, the early polls are showing that.
Yeah.
It looked like Trump was going to probably win by 4 or 5 at this point. You know, obviously we're 4 months away from the election. Anything could happen. But Trump was leading by about 4 or 5 percentage points. Now it's about
leaning 2. Yeah.
So it has tightened up based
the race,
on just the name change.
Just Kamala.
And now
there.
it depends on what's going to happen over the next few months and how is Kamala going to how much is she be able to win over people that are skeptical of her, because some people are pissed at her and saying, wait a minute, you were part of the people that were lying about how bad Biden was feeling,
and now
some
you're
people
saying,
like that. And how can we believe you now? But there's also some people that are like, listen, I have my ideology and she aligns closer with it, so I'm going to vote for her.
She also does align more closely with with the Democrats than Biden. Like, Biden's much more moderate than Kamala.
Well, I wish I could say that, but I don't think he was very moderate. He didn't govern that way. He governed in his life. He
ran more on a moderate platform than
others. He didn't govern like that, though. Unfortunately,
in
my opinion, I think any extreme one way or the other is a little too extreme. You have to really govern from. You have to govern from. Here's where I don't even care about left or right. Govern from common sense. Yeah. If this is a problem, fix it. If this is a problem, fix it. If food prices are high, do something about it. That's all I care about. I don't care. I want common sense governing. And I want governing not for them, but for the people.
Yeah.
Not for their own power, but for the people. That's what I care about. And I will always vote for someone who gives me the most common sense solution to my problems, John's problems, our family, my family, the country's problems. That's what voting's all about.
Yeah.
And some people are going to vote in one direction because it's going to help them better. And that's America, to me, at least in my opinion.
I mean, that's true.
Now, speaking of America, what's happening tomorrow or very soon? Depends on how Joseph uploads the podcast.
It's not in America, but it's the Paris Olympics. The 2024
Summer Olympics
opening ceremony is tomorrow.
And how much are you going to watch of it? Are you gonna actually tune in?
Actually, maybe. I've never seen the Olympic opening ceremonies. I've only ever seen I've seen swimming in the Olympics in Rio. That's all I really watched of the Olympics.
So what is there an Olympic event that you're most looking forward to?
I don't know. I honestly, the big thing is there's obviously a lot of the same sports that have occurred before. There's swimming, there's country running, there's a lot of other different sports. There's also actual sports competitions like soccer, not actual sports, but professional sports and amateur sports.
Team sports.
Team and individual. And then there's also, weirdly enough, they are adding a breakdancing component to this Olympics. So that's something that they're adding to this Olympics.
Breakdancing is in the Olympics. Oh my goodness. Now, is this the first time they're having breakdance in the Olympics?
Yes.
So there's going to be a lot of 50-year-olds in the Olympic Games. All the people that grew up around my time that were breakdancing in the 80s have an opportunity to win a gold medal right now, huh? Yeah. So everyone that did the worm in 1988 has an opportunity to become an Olympic champion? Is that what you're telling me, Joe?
Maybe.
Have you ever breakdanced?
Never, no.
I know one of my friends did the worm for a commercial, and I don't even think she got selected to be in the B&B commercial.
But so the worm still exists. People still do the worm.
I mean, yeah, a little bit.
I'm trying to think of the other breakdance. Oh, there was a spin on your head, which I could never do.
Yeah, that one.
There was a spin on your back, which I was able to do maybe 1.5 revolutions. so I could not be in the Olympics for breakdance, and I'll tell you that right now. But I had some friends that were pretty good at breakdancing, and they had parachute pants. You know what parachute pants were?
Yeah, I know those.
They were really ugly.
Yeah.
I had a pair. I didn't have the real pair. I had a cheap pair from the flea market that was probably made in China or something like that. Not the Italian design.
Yeah.
But I did have a very cheap pair and had zippers all up and down them. It was super ugly. I think it was red too, if my memory serves me.
And what's crazy is that the next time the Olympics comes after this one is going to be in LA.
That's
Los Angeles.
And I heard Salt Lake just got one of the 2036 or something.
2034.
Like that. 2034. Okay.
34.
I thought I just saw that come up on my feed
Yes, I
today.
just saw that. Yeah. I know, like, obviously the U.S. has had sporting events. One of them, the Copa America, the final didn't go so well. There was definitely, like, security issues there.
Yeah, I heard something happened in Miami that tore apart the stadium or something like that.
Yeah, I know, like, that has happened in Latin America before. Like, it isn't anything new. There was, like, a whole violent incident between, like, two players. Because the thing is, people will actually form sports gangs there. Like, actual sports gangs that will fight each other over their sports team. It's crazy. Like, and I don't mean, like, fans. I mean, like, actual...
Not at the arena. They'll fight in the street over it.
Somewhat, yes.
Imagine they did that in the United
arena,
States.
though. Even in the arenas, though, they'll do it. Like, there were two rival teams that played each other, and it actually, like, ended up, a lot of times they have ended deadly. Like, some of these events, they'll end up with, like, a lot of fans, like, dead because of these gangs. They'll fight the police, they'll fight each other, they'll fight other fans, like... they have, like, a name for them. It was, I think, Vice actually did a segment on them.
Oh my God, that's scary and hilarious at the same time. Now, really, when you think about it, okay, when you're rooting for a team, you're really rooting for a shirt. Right? I'm stealing this a little bit from a comedy routine I heard one time. And he's saying, so if your favorite player, right, he's the same human and he puts on a different jersey, now you hate him, right? Why? Because he has a bad shirt on.
Yeah.
So I sometimes laugh about sports. Now, all right, let's think. If the United States had gangs for sports teams, which team's gang would you fear the most? All right, so let's say football.
New York Islanders, New York Rangers gangs would go hard on each other.
All right, so I would be a little fearful of the Ranger fans, the Ranger gang, because the Ranger fans are tough. Yeah. I'm an Islander fan, but I think in football I would be fearful of the Eagles because in Philadelphia I heard they're crazy. They're crazy fans. Jets or Giants? Who do you think would be the most fearful gang?
I don't know. I don't think either of them would. Like, they're kind of like... I never really saw any, like, real, like, hostility like that. Like, at least in the Jets or the Giants.
All right,
like,
so against each other. But what about... I think the Jets gang would be tougher and scarier.
Maybe, yeah.
Because, you know why? They haven't won a Super Bowl in a while. So they're pissed. So that's my opinion.
But honestly, like, it's just crazy how sports work in other countries. Like some countries get, like, really way too involved in sports where they'll actually, like, defend their favorite sports team as though it's their life. Like, actually, I'm not even joking. One of the teams actually got banned for this because so many of their fans attacked the police, attacked other fans. It's like... If you actually, I think this was actually in Mexico where they mostly cover it, but it happens in other countries too. Apparently there's like, this one was between like Colombia and Argentina, and that's how all that happened. So, I mean, obviously they're launching other sporting events. The U.S. is hosting other sporting events afterwards. So it's something that is, something that you have to prepare for that reality because a lot of people... I mean, in the United States, it is like it does happen where people will like go crazy
They'll fight
over
at
sports,
the game, but
they
there's
won't,
usually
like,
2 or 3 idiots fight each other, not
like
gangs
not like,
of people.
Yeah.
You know, you never
Usually
see
it's
a sporting event.
Usually it's like an individual thing, you know?
It's interesting. Maybe, you know, they should have a sport of it, and you can actually have cameras just in the crowd, and that could entertain half the people because they're probably fighting each other in the crowd. But you said it's outside the crowd, right?
Yes, it happens, like outside, inside, like, you know.
That's insane. Now, all right, let's go back to the Olympics, where hopefully there won't be gangs.
Yes.
Anything else that you could tell me about the Olympics that you've heard?
Well, the Olympics this year, they're trying to have it with like a lot of like other. They're trying to do a lot with this Olympics. They tried to clean up the Seine, and I don't think they've succeeded. At least as far as the last I heard, they were trying to clean up the Seine because the Seine has had bacteria and people's poop flooded into it for years. And so they tried this big operation to clean up the Seine. And the Seine
what is that? Tell the audience who don't know.
It's the river in Paris. So
Gotcha,
basically
okay.
there's the Seine and the Marne, and they basically are in Paris. There's the 2 rivers. They plan on hosting the swimming events there.
But they gotta get the poop out.
But apparently, I think like a few weeks before the Olympics, the water was still unsafe to swim in. I haven't heard anything since. I don't know what they're planning to do about that, like, because they can't exactly hold an event, because apparently some of the bacteria there were like E. coli and stuff still found in the river, even though it actually was even before the Olympics, 90% of the pollution was cleared out, but even then it was still wildly unsafe, and no one has been allowed to swim in that river for hundreds of years.
And they're still trying to have an Olympic event there.
They did try. I have no idea what they're doing now.
Backup plan is.
They didn't have one.
Huh.
They did not have a backup plan, apparently, as far back as like. But the last time I looked into this was a few weeks ago, so that could have changed. But you know,
here's what I would do if I was the Olympic Commission. Okay, if anyone does swim in that poop water and wins, they get 2 gold medals. What do you think?
I don't know.
3 gold medals?
I don't know.
10 gold medals?
Maybe, who knows?
If you survive the poop water and swim around the poop, is the poop the finish line? You got to hit the poop to win the.
I mean, I don't. Yeah.
See, one of the inside jokes, and I told one of our listeners, is that I like to make Joe laugh every episode. Yeah. If I can get a chuckle out of Joe, then I've succeeded. So poop. Anytime I say poop, he looks like he smiles. So
okay,
all right, I got Joe to laugh. Listen, everybody, enjoy the Olympics.
Okay,
enjoy the swimming. Now, when you know the river, that river, if you ever go to Paris, don't go in that river when it's not the Olympics. And even if it is the Olympics, be nervous in that river. What was the name of the river again?
Seine.
The Seine. Seine?
I think it's the Seine or the Seine. One of those two.
Well, I've never heard of it. Joe knows the river. And listen, everyone, thank you very much for listening to the episode. And Joe, do you have anything else to say?
Not really. I mean, that's all what we need to say. I actually am going to almost try to like see what's happening with this thing. Just put it also in like the Facebook post.
Okay.
Just to like know like what they're gonna do with it, because I have heard that. Yeah, like just the current update on like how it is. But that was from a few weeks ago. But yeah, that pretty much wraps it up. Hope you enjoyed. Like this podcast, follow us if you want to hear more. Is that all?
And that's it.
Okay, see ya.
See you around.
See you around.